once again, Liam from Unique Cars and Parts, and I'm with Daniel and his, what would you call this? This is a stable of Hondas. Honda collection, but all small Hondas. Now, if you had said to me, Daniel, I've got a collection of Hondas, do you want to come out and film them? Yeah. I probably would have said, the S2000 is about my knowledge on what's collectible in a Honda, but you've proved me wrong and shown me something. There's 1, 2, I think 7 or 8 in here.
Yeah, a couple more. I don't know, I've lost count. We could count them.
And there's you've got one on the back of a ute out the front. Yeah. So you're right into your Hondas.
Yeah, so initially, not so long ago really, this shed was full of Honda motorbikes. And you can imagine with Honda motorbikes, you fit a lot more in here. So there was a lot of bikes in here. And at some point, I kind of shifted. I'm still into the bikes, but I've picked up on a couple cars, and since then I've started collecting the cars. So some of these cars would be classed as what they call Kei cars. I think in Japan, anything under, it might be 360, maybe that's why a lot of them are 360 cc's. They get, special registration and things like that. So miniature cars, tiny little engines.
That's why a lot of them, the Daihatsus and so on, are quite narrow too, isn't it?
Yeah, small, narrow, lightweight cars, fuel efficient.
Now, I believe there was is that an S1600 you've got down there?
It's an S600. Yeah.
S600, I'm sorry. I have written about that on the website, so check it out. Yeah. But apart from that one, I had a wander through here before you got here, and I thought, air-cooled. And I said, showing my lack of knowledge, they're all air-cooled, but they're not all air-cooled, are they?
Most are air-cooled, except for 3. Yeah, so the S600, the T500, and the Z360 Hardtop, they're all water-cooled. The rest are air-cooled, yeah. Okay,
so look, let's work our way through them, because your intention is to restore all of them. One of them looks like it's pretty much done. This one with the Honda, they're what would you call them, motor scooter?
They're all Honda monkey bikes or Honda Z50s. Those bikes are all actually able to be registered and ridden on the road.
That was just where the camera is a Honda 1100 that you wheeled out to get in here. So he does ride a serious motorbike as well as the little ones.
Yeah, there's a few big bikes. I've got CX500, CX650, CB504, some old, anything old Honda. Early Honda stuff, yeah.
Are these ones for decoration only? You just thought, I'll throw them in the back, or do you actually, get around the paddocks in them?
No, they're all rideable, and they've all been ridden pretty recently. A couple of years ago, they were, instead of a wedding car, me and the boys were all on the little mini bikes. So yeah, that was me on the CT70 and the groomsmen on the Z50s.
Yeah. Well, they're a bit different to the way they do it in West Sydney. Well, you've got to have the smoke bellowing out the back. Right. I think that's and everyone with their mobile phones out filming it. That's
yeah. Blue or the red or the blue. Well,
that's the gender reveal. But I think the same goes for weddings. Yeah. Anyway, let's go through them one at a time. I'm looking at here now. I swear to you, I think I've seen this car in Malcolm. I might be wrong, but this is a 360.
Z360 Coupe. So yeah, this was the one in Malcolm in that movie where the car splits in half and they're riding along in the 2 half cars. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is a 360cc air-cooled engine, very similar to what you might see in a Scamp. The Scamp's a little bit more common, 360 Scamp.
I thought the Scamp and the 360 were exactly the same thing. They just gave it a name change at some point.
Well, Z360 is more the coupe style, so it's a little bit sportier. They've got some different styling. And then the Scamp is more like, almost like your typical Morris Mini, which is pretty much what this one here is.
Okay, so so the Scamp, that's the Z360. The Z360. We'll step back to this one.
This is actually an N600. So your Scamp would typically be an N360 and have that type of engine, but this is the sort of big block. So this is the 600cc.
This is the family truckster.
Yeah, and this one came with a few extras, like you've got your wood grain dash and wood look stuff, a few little options like this. Bonnet hump here. It's obviously pretty sporty.
Yeah, and so front wheel drive, front engine.
Front wheel drive, front engine, air cooled
600cc engine.
Yeah, so you can see there, it's pretty typical of what you might see in a motorbike.
That's smaller than what's on that motorbike out there.
Oh, that's nearly half the size.
Half the size, yeah.
yeah. So 2 cylinders, no radiator, no water to worry about. When you want to heat.
Oil bath air cleaner.
Yep.
Power brakes?
Only on the 600. Powered brakes on the 600. Yeah, so you only had your normal master and slave on the 360.
And surprisingly, a lot of structural support for in case of a head-on collision.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
I'm joking, Daniel.
I thought you might.
I'm bullshitting right there. I mean, if you head on in this thing, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're pretty stuffed. Yeah, you're not in a good way.
Okay.
If you want the heater on, you pull a lever, and what it does, it gets the hot air from the engine and just blows it straight into the cabin. So you hope you don't have any oil leaks.
And fan assisted or?
The 600 actually is fan assisted, whereas the others, it's a mechanical fan from the engine running off the belt. But with the 600, actually runs an electric fan, yeah.
And so it opens up some holes in to get the heat through. If it's raining heavy, does the water come through the grill?
So
there's bugger all there, so it could go.
I've just removed these boots because I'm just working in the engine bay, but there's usually rubber boots there. Yeah,
that stop the shit getting through.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So in the outback, you'd have insects and all sorts of crap.
Yeah. Well, it's just you pull the lever and it just blows the heat. Yeah, I suppose you might get some bugs.
Yeah. And now this one here.
So this is a TN360.
I've got to be up with you.
Right. This is a TN360 Truck. This is actually the first Honda car that I bought. Actually, when we spoke earlier in the other interview, I said I've had 8 Celicas to build one. With this truck, I bought 6 to build one. Now, to buy 6 of these is pretty tricky when there's probably maybe 30 or 40 in the country. Yeah, so
you bought 6 to build one.
Yeah, exactly.
And going back to the 600, but just before we kicked off the interview, you said you weren't sure whether to stick with the patina or do a full resto job. You've got a red door here, which...
The red door, I've got the original door, but the previous owner, when they rolled the car off the trailer, they bent the door back on the letterbox. So that was a shame.
So it's little things like the chrome trim that goes around the windscreen, you said that'd be near impossible to keep original.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
so this one here, you've gone with the black and replace.
Yeah, I mean that's your alternative option to match that profile for the windscreen rubber. You just can't get it with the chrome. I think there might be someone in the States who does it, but you're looking at well over 1,000 or more just for the windscreen rubber. So, yeah, I mean my choice was with this car. It's in quite good condition, despite some patina, some light surface rust. The thing runs beautifully. The interior is like immaculate, and I've done work to the brakes and everything. This car, as it is, I could put it on the road. So it's tempting to do that and keep the patina, but then on the other hand, I think is it worth stripping it right back and doing a full resto? It's a tricky decision really, because I kind of like the patina too.
Yeah, apart from the red door, it's made a big comeback, particularly with combis and that sort of thing. They seem to love it. But this one, as you were saying, this one has been restored. The first one you did, and you said it was 6 cars that made this one up.
6 cars, yeah. I mean, when something is so rare, obviously that makes it challenging to find the cars to start with, but even more so is finding parts. So it was...
unique cars and parts.
Yes. Have you got any TN360s?
Let me think about that. No.
I called so many places. I searched so hard, high and low. I sent emails and I chased every lead that I possibly could for any cars or parts. TN360 is super, super, super rare. Not as rare as some of the other cars down here, but at the time it was just impossible to find parts. If I could find a wreck in the paddock, rusted out wreck in a paddock, and get that indicator lens, I'd go to Sydney, and I really did, Most of the cars I bought actually were from another collector who had 6 or 7. I think I bought 4 maybe from him. But yeah, like
how many years did it take to get it to this condition?
This one was pretty quick actually. I was thinking about that recently, and I remember that painting this car was during COVID, early in COVID. And it was probably only maybe a year before that I bought the first one at the Shepparton swap meet. Maybe a year and a half. So I went really hard with this car. Yeah.
So under 3 years by the sound of it.
Yeah, well maybe even like 1, because I bought the car. Yeah, I bought the car in the first car I bought in I think 2019, and I had this one done in 2020, I reckon. Yeah.
Okay. And there's one that's even rarer behind this one. Yeah. But before we get to that one, we're looking at here a 1300 Coupe.
1300 Coupe 9.
Bloody, how did I guess that? I think you must have told me before I kicked off the interview. Yeah. Almost like we said, what the hell is that?
I said, I don't think you would have seen one. as far as I know, and I'm happy to be corrected, but as far as I know, there could be around a dozen in Australia, Coupe 9s. There's probably more Coupe 7s, or there's definitely more Coupe 7s. So the Coupe 7 and the Coupe 9 have the same body, effectively the same engine. The Coupe 9's the high-end model, so it has quad carbs rather than a single carb, and it's kind of your sporty model. But very similar, interchangeable panels and things like that. Coupe 7s, I don't know, there might be a couple hundred. Coupe 9's about a dozen.
And how many cars have gone into this, or is this just a...
This particular car, I've got 2. So that's 2 of those 12 as far as I know. One's just sitting out there for parts. I actually need to use the whole front end. The radiator support needs to be unstitched and welded on. But apart from that, panel work on this is pretty simple. It's pretty clean and straight. So this car's not far off having a paint job and building up. I've got boxes and boxes of parts. I was really lucky actually to come across this car. It was at the point where I had all these other cars, and I'm in the Honda car club, and I said to a bloke in the club, I've bought enough cars for now, I need to hold back, the budget's getting tight. And I said the only thing I'd change my mind for would be a Coupe 9. And he said, didn't you see the club email yesterday? And I said, what do you mean? He says, there's a Coupe 9 available. A bloke's contacted the club, he's in the club, and he really just wanted it to go to an enthusiast, someone in the club. So it wasn't advertised broadly. And I couldn't believe it, because I just said, I've had enough, I can't buy any more for now. And sure enough, I was up there buying 2 more, so... This one and the other one.
And if you bring the motorbike back in, you've got no room for any more. So this has got to be the end.
I should sell the bike and then I'll get another car.
Maybe. I'd say probably a safer choice, but after looking at the structural integrity of these things, I'm not so sure. Yeah. And so if we go back down, this one here, Daniel, is this your favourite of all of them?
Oh, look, I sometimes think about favourites and it's tricky. If I was to pick only 3 or 4, this would definitely be in that selection, I guess. This is a really special car to me. I searched high and low. I actually knew of this exact car, this particular car.
Well, look, I've seen the 360s. I've seen the 600s. Yeah. I've seen photos of these in Japan, but I've never seen this thing before.
Most people probably never seen one. The story goes that Honda brought these in only as a on display in the dealership. So potentially maybe 30 of these in Australia that were just shown in the dealerships. And they said, if we get enough orders, we'll bring them in. And, they might have said, if we get 1,000, we'll bring them in. And they only had, say, 500 or 600 or whatever. And so they never actually sold this car in Australia. So the only ones that are in Australia are those original ones that were in the dealerships. I saw a photo on Facebook of this car a while ago, a long time ago, and I knew it was in Victoria, and there was a few comments and people saying, where is it, and I'll buy it. And I chased every lead I could. I put out posts on, because they said it might have been in Horsham or something, and I just couldn't find this car, and I spent all this effort trying to find the car, and then randomly a friend of mine sends me a photo and says, do you know anything about this? This is a Honda. And sure enough, it was this car. It was that car that I'd been searching for. So I couldn't believe that. And the rest is history. So I ended up buying it from up in Northern Vic. T500's a 4-cylinder twin cam, which is pretty cool for a 63. Twin cam side draft carb. So when you start this thing up, this one's not running yet, but when you start these up, they just sound like a superbike. And that's in a little ugly looking truck from the early 60s, Yeah.
And look, not being judgmental, but I don't think Honda ever designed these for the longevity that this one's had.
Oh, absolutely not. No, I mean, to think that this is still here is really, I think, pretty amazing. If there was 20 or 30 in Australia ever in the early 60s, I know of a few that have been sent back to Japan. They're mad keen on these things in Japan. They're not really common anywhere, to be honest. There may only be a handful of these left in the country.
I obviously indicator, and is that the gear change that I'm looking at? Is it a 3-speed?
Column shift. I think it is a 3-speed. I'll let you know when I get it going. Column shift.
A mystery to be solved.
Yeah. So I think I was explaining how the engine to these, the T500 engine, is very similar. Actually, there was, before the S600, there was an S500, and the S500, which is a little sports car here, mine's an S600, had effectively the same engine as this. The T500 and the S500 shared an engine. So when I saw this and the engine was on the back in pieces and all weathered, I started looking for an S600 engine, thinking maybe I could fit it or even use the top end or parts. And so I put some posts out there looking for this S600 engine, and I found the car instead. So I thought I'd better just buy an S600, you know.
And you've got the engine, and it doesn't look too bad. It looks like it's recoverable.
It's not too bad. I've got what I need to do is put S600 cylinder sleeves and pistons in, because the T500 size and pistons just not available. But the S600 sleeves fit into the T500 engine. Yeah.
And sorry, did you say air cooled? This one?
No, this is water cooled. Yeah.
And the engine sits behind here.
No, the engine sits under the seat, and here's just your spare wheel. I've broken the cable, but yeah, your spare wheel sits in there, and that's about it. Your spare wheel and
a bit like a Tesla.
Yeah, it's pretty much
or a Porsche.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a Japanese Porsche.
Yeah, I love this thing. I mean, to me, it's quirky, it's odd, it looks interesting. The engine's really cool,
and it sounds like a supercar, and you sit on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. This
bit like a motorbike.
Yeah, exactly right. It'll sound
the heritage is showing through.
Yeah, it would sound like someone's coming down the road in a like a sports bike, a 4-cylinder sports bike, and then this thing would come flying along. Yeah,
and chrome wipers. Are they stainless?
Yeah, they're stainless, and this is aluminium, which would normally be polished. And yeah, here aluminium with chrome rings around the headlights there. Interestingly, the T500 was effectively the second car Honda ever made. The T360, which is the same car with a 360cc engine, Honda's first ever car, was a T360. This is a T500, so almost the first car that Honda ever made. The T360 came only in light blue. You can see light blue on that little model truck there. Mm-hmm. And the T500 only came in this green. That's the original green under this orange.
So this has been repainted?
This has been repainted in this orange colour, but you can see, the original. So
you'll take it back to the original?
I think it needs it. Yeah, I think it needs it. Yeah.
Great looking car. So let's continue backwards, shall we? Yep. We're looking here at another 360.
Yes, so these two here, there's two cars that look very similar. They're both LN360s. One's actually a station wagon, and the other's actually a panel van. The only real difference is the panel van.
Well, just to cut you off,
Yep.
Panel vans normally don't have side windows.
No, so they sold it as either a wagon or a panel van, and the panel van came with flat panels filling those holes, and the wagon came with the windows. And obviously the panel van didn't have rear seats. And the only way to really tell if you looked at a bare body would be the VIN number or the ID tag would say seating capacity 2 or seating capacity 4. So this one says seating capacity 4, that one says 2, so that's a panel van, that's a wagon. Again, I know I say these cars are all rare. You will not find one of these. If you go on eBay, you can go on car sales, Gumtree, you can start putting the feelers out there. If you find an LN360 for sale, I'd be very, very surprised. I know of two or maybe 3 others in the club. The club I'm in, I think, has 2. Personally, I know of these 2 and maybe 3 or 4 others. Yeah.
So this is the station wagon.
Yep.
This is the panel van.
Yes.
ready for duty. Both air cooled.
Both air cooled. Both 2-cylinder 360cc engines. Basically the same engine as the first car we looked at, the Z360. And basically these are a Scamp wagon or a Scamp van. So if you looked at a 360 Scamp, if you took a photo of this car and stopped halfway, it's basically a Scamp. Yeah, it's a Scamp wagon or a Scamp van.
And just for the uneducated, the difference between a 360 and a Scamp is?
Well, they're the same. So you've got an N360, which is also called a Scamp. Yeah, I think it's probably more a nickname, but I guess Honda would have called them Scamps. But yeah, N360 is a Scamp. LN360 is really just a Scamp with a different back end. Yeah, lift up tailgate or yeah.
It's incredible. We're going back here. Another 360.
Yes.
What are we looking at here?
So this is a Z360, very similar to the first car, a Z360 Coupe, but this model's called the Hardtop Z360. It doesn't have pillars on the doors, so when you open the windows, you've got that big opening all the way. It looks really cool.
That coupe look.
Yeah, that's right. So when you open the door, there's no frame on the door and there's no pillar at the front of the rear window, so you get that hole open. And also, this is a water-cooled version. So the first one we looked at was air-cooled. This is water-cooled.
Air-cooled. just about all air-cooled down here.
That whole row except for two.
Except for this one,
and
then
one.
this one.
Yeah, so it's funny, this story...
And which is the most valuable of the 360 style cars and their variations? Which would actually be the most sought after, the most valuable? Which would the Japanese ship back there to...
It's an interesting one. I think if we looked at just that row that we've done so far, I would say probably the little truck, the T500.
But just in the 360s.
Just in the 360s.
Slash Scamp, which would be...
Look, probably the most rare would be one of these LNs. So in restored condition, I think they would probably be more valuable than any.
And yet this one does look better because of its coupe styling. And these ones don't look like they have headrests, but that's got some pretty cool looking headrests in them.
It's an interesting thing, you know, the collectors of little Hondas don't necessarily care much about which car looks cooler. It's kind of more about which one's more rare and harder to get. So, you know, like, I would say if you wanted to pick a car that looks cool, yeah, maybe the Hardtop Coupe Z360 is a cooler car. I bought that car for $100, you know. The guy who bought that car, he actually... thought he had a air-cooled Z360 that he was restoring, and he bought this as a parts car and realised that, in actual fact, nearly everything on this car is different. Even though they look very much the same, the panels, the bolt-ons, they're all different. They're not compatible, so it was of no use to him.
So he got rid of it for $100, and here it is sitting in your stable, ready to be restored.
Yeah, well, they say one man's trash is another man's treasure. I was very excited to find it like that. You know... potentially it's worth more than that, but he was...
Well, look, to the complete uneducated, if I was to walk in here, I would say, well, apart from the sports cars, I'd be saying this one would be the most valuable, but yeah. I'd be completely wrong.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I've had this discussion with others, and you think, what makes a car valuable? And sometimes rarity does, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes something being rare it means that there's no demand because people don't know what it is. So, yeah, value is a tricky one, isn't it? Probably if we looked at these next two, this is probably...
Well, these, you know, when they're restored are what you expect to see at a car show, typically, aren't they? I mean, you don't go to many car shows and see the 360s.
No, I mean...
Unless you're in the Honda Car Club.
That's right. In their day, they were probably, you know, a throwaway car. They probably didn't have much respect for a car like that, and I guess for me these days, that's what makes it cool, that they're so hard to find, that they, you know, they never necessarily were highly sought after or valuable, but these days it makes them even harder to find.
Well, when I interviewed you about the Celica, remember we did the test to see whether the wife has watched the whole thing. Oh, yeah. We'll see if she's got this far on this interview, because she told me a story about her girlfriend having a 360 and learning to drive in it in the backyard, and was able to drive, because it was manual, of course, was able to drive around in circles in the backyard, with her first car being a Honda 360.
Oh, you need to find out if she knows where it still is.
I'd say long gone. I think I might be drinking out of it right now.
Fair enough.
So what are we looking at here, this yellow beast?
This is the S600 that I'm pretty excited about. I've not had this very long, really. I've had this for a few months. This is the one I was mentioning earlier. I was looking for a motor for the little T500, and the bloke contacted me and said, guess what, I've got a car. This was in Sydney. And it was right in the middle of the big lockdowns, and I thought, how am I going to get this thing? And just towards the end of being sort of stuck in the state, we were able to actually drive over and pick it up. As long as I think we had to pick it up and come back on the same day.
And it looks great. The bucket seats look great. The interior, I mean, is that brushed aluminium I'm looking at there, or stainless steel plating or something?
Yeah, brushed alloy, stainless as well.
Toggle switches, choke. Obviously.
Yeah, choke and all your toggles. And
But you know, the gear change is on the floor. It makes it sporty. I'm assuming 4-speed.
Yes, and, you know, when you sit in this car, you really feel like you're basically sitting on the floor. It's a really funny car to sit in. Once you get used to it, it feels quite sporty, but getting in and out is a bit of a task. You can see how the doors open this way, and you've got to feed your legs in. It's almost like you're getting into a go-kart. But yeah, super, super cool. 4-cylinder, quad carb, water-cooled, S600 Roadster. They came also in a coupe. I think if I was ever going to get another Honda, there's probably 2 left. There might be more, but there's two that might happen one day. One would be the coupe version of the S600, and there's another one that's really super rare. I think I only know of one in Australia. It's called a Honda Vamos or Vamoose, and that is basically like the red truck, the TN360, but completely open, a bit like a mini moke. I nearly bought one and I missed it. Years ago, the guy wanted $4,000 for a really rough one. I thought that was a little steep, and I contacted.
Now you wish you had bought it.
I contacted him recently and said, "Have you still got the Vamos or the Vamos?" And he said, "Just sold it for 10." So,
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, you've got your work cut out for you, Daniel.
Yeah,
This has been an education for me. I've got to tell you, absolute education, because I think for most, non-Honda enthusiasts walking into a stable, firstly, you're struck by collectible Hondas that are sort of a bit out of the norm on what you would expect to see.
Yeah.
And then secondly, that you've got such a mixture of water-cooled and air-cooled,
Yeah.
and that they are so valuable, and you haven't just stuck with one project. You've got a dozen on the go.
I see it as like a stage thing. So I'm just getting towards the end of collect stage. And what happens is, for me, is you buy one and then someone shows you another and you think, I better get that. And then you start to think, well, you start having a collection. And if you aim to have a collection, there's that first stage of collecting all of the cars. And then the second stage really is to source parts. And you really can't focus just on one car. Because parts might pop up for the other car, So if I just focus on the S600 and suddenly there's a really rare and hard to find part for the T500, I need to buy that too. So, it's like one whole thing, yeah. But I guess I'll move into that stage. I've restored the TN, little red truck, and the next car will probably be that 1300 Coupe. I've started on panel work, the Coupe 9 there at the front, the grey one. That lends itself to resto because it's kind of close. So I could paint that sort of fairly soon and start to put it together. So, yeah.
Well, Daniel, thank you for showing me through, mate. This has been, as I say, a real education. These things, I said, this one that's been fully restored looks fantastic, but they all look pretty good.
Yeah.
It's been wonderful. It really, you're so fortunate, and a lot of hard work has gone into. I can see already a lot of hard work's gone into what you've currently got. But looking fantastic, Daniel. Thank you for having me over and showing me and having a chat.
No worries. Thank you.
See you. Thank you.